Here at Wealth Talks, we talk about things that build wealth in your life. That means we also have to talk about things that hinder you from building wealth or destroy your wealth.
We've worked with Attorney Lee Phillips over the years to develop asset protection for businesses and individuals, things like LLCs and S corps and, wills and trusts, that type of thing.
Recently, Lee reached out to us to alert business owners about the new Corporate Transparency Act of 2021. Well, relatively new, but there are some stiff fines if you don't comply. Lee Phillips is here with us to talk about that today. Welcome to the show, Lee.
It's good to be with you guys.
What is this new Corporate Transparency Act? What does it mean for business owners?
Well, the Corporate Transparency Act was passed back in 21, like you say, and what it does is it requires anybody who registers something with the state, and you register a corporation with the state, you register an LLC with the state, you register a limited partnership with the state. Now, you don't register your living trust, you don't have to register a partnership. Limited partnership you do, but not a general partnership. So trusts and partnerships, they don't have to be registered with the state. If you're registered with the state, then the new law says that you have to register with FinCen. Now you have the Treasury Department, and then you've got the IRS, you all know about them, and the little brother of the IRS is FinCen, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and these guys do carry guns. And you have to register the beneficial owners information. They want to know who owns these companies. And if you're a small company, then you have to register. If you're over 25 people, you don't have to register, and there are rules as to who registers. But generally, all of us that have little small companies that we keep our real estate in, or that we do our insurance company with, or now I can have 100 employees, but there's only one owner of my company, so I have to register that with FinCen. And I have to give FinCen all the information on each one of the beneficial owners. That information is name, rank, and serial number. Your name, your Social Security number, your birthday, all of this stuff, your address, your phone number.
I even had to upload a driver's license when I did it for our companies.
Yep, you got to upload your driver's licenses, and they want, the full 9 yards on everybody.
So is this even constitutional?
No, it's not constitutional, Michelle, but March 1st, Friday evening, March 1st, the federal courts in Alabama issue a ruling that says that the whole thing is unconstitutional. And the judge that did it didn't hold back any words. It was really unconstitutional in his opinion. And about 3 or 4 days later, FinCen came out and they issued a public notice that said, okay, we'll agree, it's unconstitutional for everybody in the American Small Business Association that sued us to see if it was constitutional or not. So if you were a member of that association on March 1st, you don't have to comply. But all the rest of you guys, you have to comply. We're going to stick it to you. And if you don't comply, then for every day that you're late in your filing, it's $500 plus $10,000 plus 2 years in jail.
These aren't separate fines. These are cumulative.
Cumulative, yeah. And the judge just said, that's outrageous, which it is. But FinCen is they're going to do it, whether the courts say it's unconstitutional or not. What they're trying to do is prevent money laundering. Well, trust me, anybody who's really laundering money is going to get around this anyway. But it's to prevent money laundering because they want to know who the beneficial owners are. And the beneficial owners aren't just somebody that's listed on the ownership of the company. It's anybody that has substantial influence over the company, anybody that gets money from the company. Whether you own a chunk of it or not, you're considered a beneficial owner.
So is this just a one-time registration, Lee, or is there an ongoing update that you have to keep filing with FinCen?
It's a one-time registration, but you're gonna, let me talk about the registration for 2 minutes. You're gonna go to fincen.gov, just type in FinCen on your browser, and it will bring up FinCen. And there's a big button there that says register. You've apparently done this, John.
Yes, I have.
So you're going to press the button, and then it's just going to ask you for name, birthday, address, phone number, upload driver's, all the stuff that they want. It's not hard. It's going to take you a minute, but it's not hard. And you have to do that for each of these beneficial owners. So we've got to do it for everybody that owns the company or gets money from the company or has influence over the company. But yeah, it's a one-time registration. But anytime any information changes on any one of the beneficial owners, you've got 30 days from that change in information to notify FinCen. Otherwise, the $500 a day, the $10,000, the 2 years in jail, the clock starts over again.
Wow.
Boy, it gets you coming and going.
Well, it's basically going to be impossible for you to make these changes as they go along, because the first thing that's going to happen when Dad dies is, oh my gosh, or I get a new driver's license. Oh my gosh, I've got to immediately notify FinCen. And if that 30-day clock runs, you're toast. So it's going to be almost impossible for people to comply with this. If I've got 5 or 6 people, or even one, in my little company, I got to keep track. I mean, if somebody gets a new house, changes addresses, changes their phone number, I mean, you got the 30-day clock and it starts over again.
What do you think people are going to do? Are they going to comply with it? Is it worth complying?
Well, yeah, it's worth complying. The radical part of Lee says that this is just the way for the government to take out any small business person or individual that they want to take out. Because if they really enforce these crimes against you, these penalties against you, it'll wipe you out.
So there's an exemption for those people that filed suit in or with that federal judge in Alabama that were part of that small business association. Are there any exemptions for any of the others of us that weren't so fortunate to be part of that club?
Well, no, there aren't. You're going to comply. Let's look at compliance for 2 seconds. If the company was in existence on January 1st, 2024, then you have to register. The question comes in 2 other forms. Okay, I've got a company that was in existence prior to January 21st, but I haven't paid my state dues for the last 2 years. It's not a company in good standing. I closed it down. Well, FinCen says unless you closed it down officially with the state, you put a stake through its heart, then you're toast. You've still got to register that. You've still got to register all the beneficial owners.
When is the deadline for this registration?
If the company was in existence on January 1st, you've got all the way till December 31st, 2025, or 2024, end of the year, before 2025. If you create a new company anytime during 2024, you've got 90 days to make that registration. If you create a new company after the end of this year, then you've only got 30 days to make the registration. They gave us some slack in 2024.
So let's just say that someone started a company this year and it's already been past the 90 days, or let's say someone's listening to this podcast maybe in early 2025 and they haven't registered. Where do they go register and what's the process look like?
Well, you're going to go register the same process to the FinCen, FINCEN, FinCen website, and you're going to press the registration button and you're going to register. And then you're going to get down on your knees and say, I didn't know, I'm sorry, forgive me. And I can't believe that they're not going to cut a lot of people a lot of slack over the next year or so, because the fact of the matter is, I'd guess 50% of small business people out there don't even know about this yet.
Yeah, we've talked to businesses all the time, and you're the only one that I've heard talk about this, Lee. I just want to ask a hypothetical question. You said unless you've put a stake in the heart of a former business that you've owned, it still needs to be registered. So, for example, I was a chiropractor for 20 years. I practiced in 3 different states. I had businesses in each of those states. I still have an active license in one state. Is that business still going, or do I have to go and file some paperwork with each of those states to kill that business?
Was the business just a sole proprietorship? It was just you doing business?
It was a professional corporation. So, but yes, it was filed as a sole proprietorship.
Okay, unless you have officially filed papers with the state, wherever the state was that you set it up originally, unless you've officially filed papers with the state that says that it's dead, you're going to have to register. But if the company was created before 2020, which yours probably was.
They were.
And if you meet 6 criteria, created before 2020, haven't done over 1,000 years through, or 1,000 years, 1,000, haven't done over $1,000 through the company. And by the way, if you're working for Tom, you know how to make $1 million? You work 1 million hours. But if you haven't run $1,000 through it, if you haven't changed ownership in the last year, if there isn't a foreign owner, if it's just you, if you haven't done this, you meet these 6 criteria, then it's considered dead.
Okay, so that's the stake in the heart of it if you haven't done those 6 things.
That's true, but, my son has one that he put real estate in, and he stopped paying the fees 3 or 4 years ago. Well, he's still got the bank account. He's still running it. That would have to be registered.
Okay.
That makes sense.
What about a 501c3 nonprofits? Do they have to also do the same thing?
Basically, no. There's a bunch of criteria for a nonprofit, and there's a bunch of exceptions to these registrations. Basically, if you're already registered with the government in some way, you're an insurance company. You're registered under the state insurance laws and stuff. They know who you are, and banks and anybody who's already registered. Then we're okay. The nonprofits, they're basically okay. The HOAs, we got a lot of HOAs out there, homeowners associations. If they're registered with the state officially, then they're going to have to comply. But this is a nightmare because we get a new board every year and people are coming and going off this board all day long. So it's going to be a major nightmare for like homeowner associations.
We appreciate Lee Phillips' expertise in asset protection and estate planning, but he's also known for telling good lawyer jokes. When we get back from the break, we're going to ask him to tell one of his lawyer jokes.
Ken is a client of McPhee Insurance. In 2008, he lost about half of his investments. That was before he was a client, but he had been following conventional financial wisdom to a T. Many people don't put enough money away for their retirement, but Ken did put money away for his retirement. He says the most frustrating thing when 2008 came along, he had been putting money away for 35 years, and it hadn't grown to what he expected it should have. Then 2008 came along, and it took half of it away. He really felt like he was backpedaling instead of making progress the way he should. That's when Ken discovered using life insurance as a financial tool with the infinite banking concept. He says not only does it give him more stability with his finances, but it puts him back in control instead of giving control to somebody else. Many people find out about using life insurance as a financial tool during an economic downturn or a market crash. And while it's good they're getting the coverage they need, we really wish we could turn the clock back for these people so they could have the good life insurance in place before the economic downturn or the market crash. Because good life insurance helps you to keep more of the money that you make, grow your wealth, and have financial peace of mind even during turbulent economic times. To get the good life insurance you need, call McPhee Insurance at 702-660-7000. Call us sooner than later.
Well, I'm excited to hear Lee's joke.
Well, it's not a joke. I mean, do you know how many lawyer jokes there are?
I have no idea.
There are only 3. All the rest of them are true. So the client's dying here, and he has these 2 lawyers come stand on either side of the bed. After a minute, these 2 lawyers standing on either side of the bed, they look down at the client and they say, "Hey man, how come we're here?" And the client looks back up at them and he says, "Well, I didn't live a very good life. I couldn't live like Christ. So I figured the least I could do is die like Christ in between 2 thieves."
Every time that you make changes to this FinCen filing, you've got to refile in 30 days after next year. New companies that are started this year, they don't have till the end of the year to file, do they?
No, they've only got the 90 days like we've talked about. And if you have made a filing and something changes, you move, you get a new address or something, then you have to you've only got 30 days to update it, even though it's this year.
Oh, so if you filed this year and then you update something, the 30-day clock already starts.
Yeah, I've already filed, but then I bought a new house and I moved. Then I've got to update my FinCen registration.
Oh, that's good to know.
So what about...
And I've only got the 30 days.
What about those of us who have more than one corporation? Do we have to go in and do all that detail filing on every one of them?
You do. You have to file a separate for each company. Now, I can get, as an individual, I can get a FinCen number. And I'm going to give them the exact same information that I give them on a registration for a company. But I actually get a FinCen number. And then, since you have 10 companies, you can use that number and supply that information for each one of the 10 companies. And the other advantage there is, if you change address or something, you make that change in your number, and then that automatically moves over to each one of the 10 companies.
I'm thinking for someone who has a very active life, maybe they have many different business owners that they have to update. I'm thinking to set a reminder on their calendar that comes out like maybe the 5th of every single month, just to trigger in their mind, do I need to go on FinCen and make any updates?
That's a good idea. Did anybody change anything this month? And that's almost what you're going to have to do in order to comply with it, because you're going to get a new driver's license. And like I say, the first thing you do is you think, oh my gosh, I got to register with FinCen. But if you had the monthly reminder, like you were saying, then we could maybe trigger, did anybody get a new driver's license, or did anybody get a new house, or, change their information. So yeah, that's almost what you're going to have to do, Michelle. It's just going to be the way it is.
We were talking during the break, Lee, and you said that a lot of accountants and attorneys aren't helping people file these FinCen reports. Who are they going to go to get help with this?
Well, the reason the accountants and the attorneys don't want to get involved in it is because if I get involved in it as a lawyer, am I then responsible to make sure that these updates are all made? So it brings a liability for the accountant and the attorney that they're probably not willing to make. Either that, or you're going to pay when they call you up every month and say, did you make a change? And it's really easy. Like I say, you've done it, John. It's not hard, is it?
Yeah, it's not hard, just time consuming.
I mean, what was it, 15, 20 minutes?
Probably per company, yeah.
It's not that bad. So you don't need to hire somebody. Now, there are a lot of scams running around. Hey, man, John, I tell you what, I'll do your registration for you. You give me all your personal information. How does that sound?
Sounds like a great deal for the scammer.
And don't ask me what my accent was. I don't know.
Talk about privacy and identity theft. I think this is an ideal scam for a lot of people that want to do that.
Yeah, no, it's great. In fact, when you go to the FinCen website, they got a big banner there, don't fall for the scams. So, yeah, it is actually a problem. But you can do it. You don't need to give your information to anybody else other than FinCen. And then FinCen's going to give it to everybody. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they showed what they do with our private personal health information with HIPAA. So why would they do any different with this, right?
Well, they've openly stated that they're going to share it between all the government agencies, all of the state agencies. That would be your local cops. Most banks will have access to it.
All these Wyoming companies that people want to set up to protect their privacy, is that really going to do it anymore with this new filing?
No, it isn't going to do it anymore, and it never did it originally, in my opinion. John, I can literally tell you what brand of underwear you're wearing. Lawyers, we have access to databases that the general public doesn't, and we can track your it's easy for the government to track your credit card charges, and they can tell you what you bought.
Interesting.
So as much as we don't like this, we don't like our privacy invaded, we don't like our constitutional rights overthrown, if we don't want to pay those penalties, we have to comply to a certain extent.
Yeah, basically that's correct. And they have said that if you intentionally don't comply, then all of these penalties will automatically be assessed against you. So they're looking for the people who want to be conscientious objectors. That's an old term that we used to use back in the old days. But no, they're going to make you comply.
So, Lee, I don't know if you have a crystal ball. I don't think anybody does, but just from your past experience dealing with this kind of things, is there any possibility that this law could be overturned in the future?
Well, basically, the genie's going to be out of the bottle, so to speak. There's a possibility a new administration could come in and get rid of all of these regulations. But they say, well, it's a bipartisan effort. 30 Republicans voted for it, and every Democrat voted for it. So it's bipartisan. If somebody came in that really wanted to do away with government regulations and stuff, there's a possibility they could put a stake in its heart. But it's not going to happen before the end of the year, and we've all got to comply before the end of the year.
Sure.
So once the genie's out of the bottle, they may make it so you don't have to keep it updated or something, but no, they're coming down on us in a number of ways.
Do you know of any organized effort to lobby Congress to overturn this?
I don't know of any. There are a couple of more lawsuits going through the system. And I might note that FinCen itself appealed the federal court's ruling in Alabama. So that's working up through appeal. It'll work itself out in the courts, but it takes time and it's going to be too late. You can't file a lawsuit today, and it took 3.5 years for the first lawsuit to get through the mix. So it's going to be around for a while, and we're going to have to live with it. I just hope they do away with it in the updating phases of what they're doing, but I suspect they're not going to.
This feels like a message of doom and gloom, but it's also a good reminder that we need to get out and vote. If we don't want to have these kind of laws on the books, we need to vote in some changes for the better. I think there's a lot of different laws on the books right now that Americans are facing, and we have something to say when we go to the ballot box.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us, Lee, just to get this message out with everybody, because I know you're not practicing anymore. You're just trying to educate people, and that really shows where your heart's at in this.
Well, I get the word out any way you can. Like I told you during the break, I've sent you information. I don't need credit for it. Chop it up, do whatever you want with it, but make sure all your people know about this and spread the word, because you could be in big trouble if the government wanted to actually come after you as an individual. And they're picking people out one at a time now, so watch it.
Thank you for joining us today, Lee.
It's great to be with McPhee's. You guys do a great job. By the way, the insurance is probably one of the most private things there is, because that's a contract between you and the insurance company.
You're right.
That's a good point.
And we didn't even pay you for that plug.
I'm going to bill you later.
Next week, we're going to talk about financial stress and how to respond to financial stress to turn it into financial success right here on Wealth Talks.